Welcome to On the Couch, the podcast where real conversations meet real change. Pull up a seat, get comfortable, and join us as we dive deep into the conversations that matter most to Black and Brown communities. Hosted by Dr. Diamond and an incredible lineup of co-hosts. On the Couch brings you raw, insightful, and empowering discussions, from mental health and wellness to entrepreneurship, life insurance, healthcare, and everything in between. Our mission is simple: to educate, uplift, and create space for conversations that need to be heard. Whether you're here for practical advice, motivation, or just a dose of inspiration, you've come to the right place. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about the things that shape our lives, our futures, and our communities. This is On the Couch, where we keep it real, keep it relevant, and keep it moving. Let's get started.
Good morning. Good Saturday morning to you. Welcome to On the Couch. And we are happy that you're joining us this morning. We will not be having Miss Toya with us today, but hopefully we'll have Dee dropping in. We have Mark waiting in the wings. So today, of course, our topic is about Black history and society resistance to our truth. This is something that, many of us, know about, hear about. Currently, we're going through some things here in the United States, removal of our historical facts. But we are going to get a chance to delve into this topic. And again, with Black History Month almost coming to an end, we have one more week of Black History Month. But remember, we're always Black 365 days of the year, and our history is ongoing. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Mark in so we can just chop it up, have a discussion about this. And here he comes. Hey, Mark. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. We're having some warm weather, even though it's supposed to get cooler later on and everything like that. It's a little drizzly here. I stepped outside earlier, but I know yesterday I think it was like in the 70s, so I stepped outside a couple of times, even though I was at home. But today through Tuesday, I'll be at the center because I'll be at the center today. I'll be at the center on Sunday because we got a church service, and I'll be here Monday because of another dance class. And then Tuesday, we've got the great Branford Marcellus coming to perform. So I'll be here with his performance on Tuesday and everything like that. So we got a number of things taking place here, including Melissa Harris Perry, the great reporter that'll be with us in March, along with our film festival. And we've got some classic films that we'll be showing, including The Wiz, Five Heartbeats, and Daughters of the Dust. And we've got some newer films, including some about the loss of hometowns and things along those lines. So definitely in Black masculinity. So we've got a lot of things taking place here at the center, as always. Got a quote up on my wall and got a number of other things, including an exhibit of some of the great blues festivals that we used to do back in the day. And I'm hoping that at some point we can get it back and everything like that. So yeah, lots going on here and everything along those lines. So definitely always glad to be here with you and all in that space. Can I borrow you? Can I take a point of privilege as one of your great producers and everything like that? Because I want to share something that I saw earlier today, and it actually comes in to our conversation and all along those lines. But I think it's something that we need to listen to, hear this pushback that one of Trump's allies got, and everything along those lines. So I don't know if you can bring up on your side what I'm sharing.
Yes, I could. So I will do that. Here we go.
All right. Well, I'm gonna play this, and I'd love to hear people's reactions to this pushback to Kevin Leary.
Also love to see that America is really the only civilization that's ended slavery, and so I think we need to have both elements.
Do you think I love America?
I'm sure you do.
No, I mean, do you, as a military veteran,
Of course.
a veteran, do you think I love America?
Of
And
course.
do you also think that erasing what actually happened to my ancestors that actually fought for this
I
country
don't think
when they
it should
couldn't
be
even sit at land?
erased.
But it's not just about trying to erase it. It's about actually acknowledging and doing something about it. It's one thing for me to acknowledge something and then something else to sit here and act like there's nothing that needs to be corrected. This lovely gentleman sat right here and tried to erase it, literally sitting next to me, literally. So even doing the comparison, saying, would you rather go to China or not go to China? Are you a veteran? So that means you never raised the pause means no. So that means he never raised his
Wait a
hand to say,
second.
I'm willing to die for this country. Let's stop talking about just the Dow. Not only was I willing to die for this country, both of my grandparents
Thank you for your service.
That's right. Thank me for my service. So how dare he
I
sit here
thank
and
you for
ask
your
me?
service.
So how dare
And
he
I-
sit here and
I feel
ask me
proud
would
that
I
you're
rather
able
be
to
in China
raise
when
these
I was willing
topics.
to die for the country that is locking up the people that we're talking about. There are more black men enslaved than those who were enslaved in 1850 in the prison system right now in 1850 that did not actually get the due process that you guys are talking about, that actually had to take plea bargains because they could not afford adequate law attorneys, which is why I'm in law school, by the way, right now. Shout out to FAMU. So to sit here and ask me, what country do I live
Let me
in?
point
It's
something
called
out to
America.
you.
You can't point nothing out.
I do.
That's
I
what
want
you
to
keep
say
getting
this.
confused.
If you were on the
Last
Abby
word,
Phillips
Well, I
show
don't wanna hear
Chinese
it.
version, you wouldn't be
But
here
I'm not
tomorrow.
the Chinese version.
You're
I'm
in
here the
America. You
American
get to
version.
say
All right.
these
The
things.
black. I know,
You
and I'm
should enjoy
saying
your
it,
freedoms.
and I'm saying it, and I'm enjoying
I'm
it, and I
proud that
fought
you
for
can
mine
say that.
and yours.
All
So
right.
thank me for my service.
All right, my friends, listen.
Thank me for my service.
Listen,
I'm not disparaging. I just want you to thank me.
We're going to bring this to a close. I mean, I do think it is worth acknowledging that you don't have to prefer China to say that I want to be able to, in this country,
I just
both
point out,
live in the
I'm
country
so-
and
we're
critique
so
it at
lucky
the
to
same
have
time.
these freedoms
Sure.
and be able. I thank
Yeah,
you for your service,
I know
by the
that's.
way.
I think that she's actually saying the same thing, that she's expressing her right to criticize, to acknowledge the past and how
My
bad
point
or
is,
how good it
every
was.
time
So
somebody
I don't know that you guys
disparages
are
a
all that.
democracy,
I don't
say,
know that you
"Where do
guys are all
wanna
that
move
far
to?
But nobody
Where do you
disparaged
wanna go to?"
democracy.
All
And I
right.
answered your question,
All
and you
right.
still didn't deal with
Thank
the
you,
issue at
guys.
hand.
Hey,
Next-
listen, I didn't serve.
next for
but
us.
I'm
So
proud
then you
to
should
tell-
be
The
quiet.
panel is going
No,
to
I
give
should
us
say
their
thank you for your
nightcaps.
service.
Okay, let's take this out of the stage, and put it in the back here. That was a good clip because I actually saw that.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, again, it is about erasure.
Yeah.
He was a classic example of what that means when we talk about our history and how it is either erased, ignored, or dumbed down, like it didn't happen. One thing I can say about our white counterparts, it's not all, because there are a lot of them that are acknowledging that we have our history and we are the history of the United States. Many of them feel like gaslighting us. This is not what happened. That's not what occurred. Well, I'm sorry, but many of us have sat down with our family members who told us exactly what was going on, especially in the South.
Yeah.
So you cannot erase someone's history to make you feel better. So I think that's what he was doing. But I like the fact that sister stood her ground with him. She did not give him an inch. He wanted to take it, but she refused to allow him to do that. So
Yeah, she was not gonna have that. I saw that earlier today, and I just thought that was an amazing thing, and all along those lines. So definitely, that was just an amazing one, and all along those lines. So definitely, it was just great to see them break it down and all in that space. So I just had to bring that to your attention because I just thought it was an amazing clip, and I was like, I got to bring this to definitely April Dr. Diamond's forefront because everything like that. Because I just thought that was a good one to check on and all in that space because definitely he broke it down. I mean, she broke it down. She broke it down big time and everything like that. And definitely that was just an amazing one that I saw. And I thought about you when I saw that one and everything like that because definitely I was going like, well, that's kind of what she's talking about and all in that space. So definitely I was like, they are definitely trying to erase history. I think that the judge in Philadelphia said that they had to put up the backup the exhibit because he was not feeling that and everything like that. So he was definitely saying that they had to put it back up in that space. So definitely that was a great thing to hear that they had to put it back and hopefully they will keep it up and all in that space. But we'll see what they do in this whole notion of whether they keep it or don't keep it. But I was just had to bring that to your attention. I thought that would be a good one to at least get the conversation going and everything like that.
Absolutely. I think that's a great segue into what we're discussing today. It brings, it highlights exactly the discussion and why these discussion needs to happen, and not just because it's Black History Month. We need to make sure these discussions are constantly happening amongst ourselves, especially with our children. They need to know where they're coming from, where they're going, because if they don't know where they're going from their past, then what do they have? You know, you can have your future, there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to know how your future became what it is, because there were other people in the past that, you know, were there and sacrificed a lot. This week, and actually I discussed this with you and Blue the last time that we all were together when Blue was on with us, and I began my research on trauma in film. So I did begin to start watching that, and I ended up watching and rewatching, you know, a lot of the movies I already saw. But the other night, I happened to see a documentary on Black Wall Street. So I definitely wanted us to highlight and touch on that. It was very impactful for me. It was very hurtful. It was, there was I can tell you it was an overflow of emotion, but the biggest one was anger, because these people that, and our folks, came out of Reconstruction and they began to build because that's all they did. Remember, these are people that work in the fields hours at a time. So they knew what to do. They knew how to survive. They build their community for their community to be taken out within 24 hours based on a lie.
Right.
Yeah. And it was so disheartening because they worked so hard. I mean, Mark, if you just looking at the beautiful places they had their own law offices, they had their own hospitals and doctors, everything you can think of as far as Black excellence they had. And to add insult to injury, after shooting people down into the street, do you know they looted them as well? And the white women were wearing their fur coats and hats and walking up and down the street, like really to remind them that you are nothing and we are, you know, better than you. And again, to me, it was about definitely jealousy. I feel the same thing for Rosewood, but what do you think?
Now, we talk a lot about Black Wall Street here at the Hayti Center. I'm actually one of the staff historians. People forget a lot about the Black Wall Streets that existed. Definitely Rosewood was one of them. Tulsa is one that a lot of people know. Durham was definitely a major Black Wall Street, and all along those lines. I love the quote that we have from W.E.B. Du Bois, where he talked about a lot of things that we could get. You didn't have to go to Searles, April. You could actually get a mattress made by a brother from right here in the area. You could actually even get a suit made by a brother and everything like that. So a lot of the things were self-contained and everything along those lines. People forget that Central Park was a Black Wall Street, and there were a number of other Black Wall Streets, including some out in California and a number of other places as well. So there were a number of these Black Wall Streets that existed that were self-contained, and they were destroyed by a number of means. It was the fire in some cases where they were burned down the villages, like what they did in Wilmington, and definitely there was the whole notion of the bombing, like what they did in Tulsa, and then of course there was the one that it was probably just as harmful in the way that they did it, which is the way they did it here in Durham, which is running a highway right through what was a thriving neighborhood and all along those lines. So definitely that is something that folks are not paying attention to, is the ways that these things were destroyed and systematically destroyed. They were done intentionally and done in a way to get folks in this horrible situation. And a lot of things we're still recovering from. I like the quote that the young lady said on the clip that I just showed you, where she was talking about this whole notion of how much there is a prison system. And I know that Dean works in the system, as do you to some degree as well. But a number of folks can't afford a attorney or can't afford the privileges that some of our rich folks have, and all along those lines, which is why the prison system has a disproportionate amount of African Americans in them. And I don't care whether you're in New York or South Dakota or North Carolina, there is a disproportionate amount of Black and brown folks that are in the prison because they don't have the resources that some of our white brethren and brothers have, and all along those lines.
Yes, agreed. They don't have the resources. And of course, from again starting a part of this research, I find that all of these systems were designed purposely to keep the Black community down. And it's unfortunate because I always go back and forth in my mind is what is it? What is it and why can't you stop? What is it about Black people that you feel like you have to keep attacking us or coming for us all the time? What is it? When will you stop? Can you stop? Is it an addiction? What is making you feel like, oh, we have to make them feel less than, Thank you, Dean, for joining us. So we're beginning to talk about in society, Black history and society. So, you two gentlemen, I am going to pose a question out here as we go along. This question is about the resistance. So what does society resistance to Black history look like to the two of you?
I mean, resistance, we're seeing some of that resistance in my mind. It's like the marches that we're seeing and a number of other things that are going on as well. So definitely protest is a form of resistance. It can also be a form of boycotts because there have been some boycotts of some organizations that were not being fair to us and all along those lines. So there are a number of ways that you can have resistance and all in that space. So there's a number of ways that resistance is available in all in that space. But definitely I'm a big fan of peaceful resistance, whether that's like the way that Dr. King did it, or whether that was boycotts or a number of other things. But there are a number of ways that resistance is possible and all along those lines. But I'd love to hear Dean's thoughts as well.
Now, when you say resistance, you're talking about resistance to the thing that we call Black history, which we do 365 days of the year?
Yes,
Fear.
from that perspective. But I do like Mark's answer too, because we do need to stand up for ourselves. We do need to resist when necessary. But I would like to hear, what do you think about?
I'm gonna say it's fear. People are always afraid of what they never tried to understand. It's hate for their own reasons. I don't even want to know why you hate me, but it doesn't even matter. But what we need to do as Black people is we have to continue the traditions. We have to continue teaching our history. I can't wait for school to teach our babies our history. Some of them look like us, some of them don't. That's fine. But school is not the first introduction to the greatness of the thing that we call Blackness. So, they resist it because they want us to forget it. If I can get you to forget something, then I can tell you what it used to be, and you're going to accept it as true because there's no one there to tell you the truth. So now we have to teach our babies what our elders and ancestors taught us. And unfortunately, we weren't always of the presence of mind to write those things down or record those things. So now we have to try to recall that as best we can. However, still recall it before it's spun around and then it's told in a totally different way. The same way they had those books that said the slaves were happy. Now, I'm not sure what slave was happy to be beaten on, molested, raped, abused every single day. I don't know anybody that likes that type of treatment. But the way the story is being told is like they came over here and everything was all good, but it wasn't.
Right.
And then fast forward now, even when you go through in the 90s, when all of a sudden those who are, I'll be 53 this year, but you look at individuals in that time frame, in our time frame, age frame, for a Black man, it was rough because we were called super predators.
Right.
And then they took it and they ran with it. So now here we go. We were born public enemy number one, and coming through civil rights and all of that stuff. Now, how funny we find out that the same individual that had the animus against black men was a black man himself passing for white.
Right.
Isn't that funny?
Right.
But it's not.
Right.
You know what I mean? So now you look at all of this stuff and you say, what do we do? Yes, we still have to fight for what's right. What's going to benefit us? Don't worry about everybody else. We've been falling for that trap too for a while. We want to help everybody else's cause except our own. At what point do we say black man, black woman, do for self? Yeah, it does involve sometimes some people helping you to get what you need. But when are we going to stop helping everybody else? And then after the help is done for them and they got what they needed, they disappear. So we have to, our loyalty is for everybody except ourselves, and we got to change that around. It's not a bad thing, but now we just have to redirect it, and we have to get it to a point where we take care of ourselves. And hey, y'all, we need your help. Hold on 1 second. We'll be right there, but we got to handle this situation first. And if you can't wait for us to get there, then move on and God be with you, because we're not going to sit there and just be, I'm not pulling the cart all day. Who else is going to pull? You know what I mean? And when I say I'm thinking of black men and women as a collective. When are we going to stop pulling the cart and get it automated so that we can learn to ride it?
Right.
That's my immediate thought, but I'll shut up and give you your show back.
But it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, but that was good. That was a great perspective into what does that look like when someone is, or our Caucasian counterparts, even those that are not Caucasian, they have these fears of Black people. But the fear is because you suppress us enough that you are afraid that retaliation is going to happen. But why inflict pain on someone if you're afraid of the repercussions? So don't do something if you're scared of it, So I find that as they create our history or try to rewrite it, but it looks like many people are waking up. That includes some of our Caucasian brothers and sisters out there that are really looking at this and saying, wait a minute, this is not right. This seems like, this was created. These lies were created, that their history is what it is. Yes, they were out there picking cotton. Yes, they were, like you said, beaten, talked down to, wouldn't even allow them to read a book. So we got to go back, though. Right. Go back to just Africa itself and just the Moors, the Ethiopians, right? The Somalians, all of those people, the Egyptians, you have to add them in because they're Black people, very knowledgeable people. And mathematics and, health, medicine was big for them. See, a lot of people don't even realize that that's where everything came from. The Hippocratic Oath, let's get it right. It belongs to Imhotep. If people don't know that, it belongs to him. He was the one who was our first physician. And then you had others, that he would be the most popular, but we had others. You're talking about a people of brilliance. So you had to stop them from being educated. So right now, who's the most educated in this world, John? The most educated. I'm going to ask you, because you can answer this question. Who's the most?
Answer that question.
Yes, you can.
Who's the most? I mean, you can't see him, but I call him the Most High. That's who I would say is the most intelligent. True. So
but human beings on this earth, who is the most educated?
You know what? I don't know. Maybe call me dumb on this one, because I'm gonna let you answer that question, because I'm gonna see if I agree with you, and we go from there. Huh?
Black women.
Oh, you're talking about collective. Yes. The most educated, the most, and you can't take nothing from them. No matter what you try to do. And they're the most educated, the most dedicated. And, every little minute they want to discount the achievements of Black women. But if you look, and then it's kind of, I guess, hypocritical because you don't want black women to do nothing but they nurse your babies.
That's it.
Oh, did I say that out loud? Yeah, I did.
You did, but that's perfectly fine because it's the truth. It is the God honest truth. We are supposed to say in these little boxes that they put us in, and we are not supposed to say a word about that. Like, oh, put them where they belong. But where do we belong? Tell us where we belong, because you've been telling us forever. So, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm one of those that's going to come out of the box on you. I'm not going to allow you to suppress me because that's what you feel you need to do. It doesn't work that way. And to me, that I can say there are many reasons why I'm the way I am. It's the women that I grew up with. It's women that I've seen on TV and how they broke out of that box. You have so many that have done great things and they refuse to lay down, and they're not going to, and we shouldn't have to. And hiding our history is not, it shouldn't be anything, nothing we should do is hide that. That is good, bad, and ugly. The trauma that we deal with our past history affects us today. It affects us. Dr. Guri, she talks about that quite often in post-traumatic slave syndrome. Her book is based on how the traumas of the past has affected us, but it's still affecting us because you have the person that's sitting in the White House that wants to erase it, because down the street from him is the National African American History of Culture Museum, and he can't take it. And he's been in the museum. He's been in there. But it's too much history for him. It's too much truth for him. And I recommend everyone that's listening to us and come back to the replay, please start going to these museums. Now, you and I, Dean, we talked about this not too long ago when I said, I'm on a quest to actually start going to a lot of these museums. I always wanted to do that. Like, that is on my bucket list, that I want to go to almost every single state and go to every African American museum, because there's a wealth of history in there that's going to tell you stories that will be beyond what you're thinking about. Again, don't erase who we are as a people. We made your history by being here, bringing our brilliance here. We were human trafficked here. And for you to insult us and say we're not worthy, it is very insulting. To shoot us down like dogs in the street, to allow dogs to attack us in the street when we were just standing up for ourselves. These are the things that we go through and have been through, and we are now still losing brothers out here. Why? Some of our sisters are dying out here too. For what? All for fear. That's what you said, Dean. Fear.
Yep.
Now I got a question for us, Mark. You said something, John? You said yep?
No, I just say yep.
Yeah, the fear. So here's another question for you guys. Yep. What happens to people when their history is denied or distorted?
Hold on a second. I got another one for you. Are you ready for another one?
Yes, I'm ready.
This will actually tell you what happens when the people's history is distorted and everything like that. It's actually a person that I have a great deal of respect for, and all along those lines have had a great deal of respect for him. And Dean knows this because I've talked about him a couple of times and everything like that. So I'm gonna bring up what happens when people's history is distorted based on this lovely one that I found out from the great Gil Scott-Heron and everything like that. So let's check out what he says about history and what happens when people's history is distorted. So if you'll pull that up in the, I got it over there, everything like that. So let's check this out and see what he's got to say about this.
Okay. And to say that somebody went to a hell of a lot of trouble to make sure that when we looked things up, we wouldn't fare too well. And we would come up with totally unreliable pictures of ourselves. But I've compiled what few facts I could, such as they are, to see if we could find out a little bit of something And this is what I got so far. First, white folks discovered Africa. They claimed it fair and square. Cecil Rhodes couldn't have been robbing nobody because, hell, there wasn't nobody there. The white folks brought all the civilization because there wasn't none around. How could the folks be civilized when wasn't nobody writing nothing down? And just to prove all of their suspicions, well, didn't take too long. They found out that there were whole tribes of people in plain sight running around with no clothes on. That's right. The men, the women, the young, and the old righteous folks covered their eyes, and no time was spent considering the environment. Hell no, this just wasn't civilized. And another piece of information they had, or at least this is what we were taught, is that unlike the civilized people of Europe, these tribal units actually fought. And yes, there was some crude implements, and yes, there was primitive art, and yes, they were masters of hunting and fishing, and courtesy came from the heart. And yes, there was love and medicine, religion, intertribal communication by drum, but no paper, no pencils, and no other utensils. And hell, these folks never even heard of a gun. And this is why the colonies came, to stabilize the land, because the dark continent had copper and gold, and the discoverers had themselves a plan. They would discover all the places with promise. You didn't need no titles and deeds. Then they would appoint people to make everything legal, to sanction the trickery and greed. And back in the jungle, when the natives got restless, they would call it guerrilla attack. And they would never describe that the folks finally got wise and decided that they would fight back. And still, we are victims of word games. Semantics is always a bitch. Places once referred to as underdeveloped are now called mineral rich. And the game goes on eternally. Unity kept just beyond reach. Egypt and Libya used to be in Africa. They've now been moved to the Middle East. There are examples galore, I assure you. But if interpreting were left up to me, I'd be sure every time folks knew this version wasn't mine, which is why it is called his story. I was wondering about our yesterdays and digging through the rubble.
Okay, that was really good.
Wow.
Very powerful.
Well, Scott was no joking. He broke it down, and it's still today. Today, we're hearing people talking about the mineral riches of Africa and everything along those lines. So you're in that conversation even today and everything.
Well, I like the fact, like he said, how can you say you making people civilized if nobody is there? According to you, nobody's there. I like that. Like, really, but you see how common sense that is, and how irrational the thought is that you're going to a place that's inhabited with people on it, but yet you're saying that this is yours. How? There are people living there. You can't just tell them, oh, well, you gotta go. But they did it though. They did it. They actually did this through their butchery. I hope no one gets offended, but I am going to speak on the religious aspect of this because they did use religion a lot. And one thing that we have to remember is that they twisted it to what they wanted it to be. And a lot of what I understand from watching Knowledge is Power is something I watch on Facebook, that they took the Ethiopian Bible, which was 88 books, and then they twisted it as the Vatican and these monarchs and Christians as they
Council of Nicaea.
Yeah, and they changed it to what they wanted it to be. I don't know if you two gentlemen have heard that, but that's what they did. They made it and created it Bible, especially the slave Bible. I know we all heard about the slave Bible. I've never read it. I don't know if have you two guys ever read the slave Bible before, or anyone that's watching us. Have you ever seen the slave Bible, read anything from it? And if you have, what was your feelings about it?
I mean, I was aware of it, and I know that they would have their own ways of putting out the Bible verses because they didn't want the Bible to help free people, even though Harriet Tubman was probably using the Bible to help get people free and all along those lines. But they definitely wanted to give their version of what was going on and everything like that. I mean, some of the things didn't really make that much sense if we look at like the version of Jesus that we see in a lot of churches and everything like that. So, but he was supposed to have been born in Africa. So, and like we talked about the wool of the hair and a number of other things as well.
And Dean, what about you? Slave Bible.
I have not, but I surely would like to read it because I bet you it's more than 66 books in that book. In that Bible.
Yeah. That Slave Bible, though, as Mark was saying, there's certain things that they cut out. There's certain things that they allowed us to read. We do have one of our guests that's watching. First thing he said was Curry. He said, I've seen Gil live in 1970. So he had the pleasure of seeing him in person. That's awesome. And the next one, Mark or Dean, heard of it, never read it. So I think we all have heard of it, but we never had the opportunity of reading it. But how these slave masters designed this was that they would allow some of the, I guess, the extraordinary Black ones that can read, like Nat Turner. Nat Turner was the exception to the Black folks on the plantation. So he was able to learn the Bible, but they didn't expect him to learn it that well, that he started seeing that you use the Bible to enslave us.
Now, what this says, and I just had to look it up actually, it said the Slave Bible, formerly titled Select Parts of the Holy Bible for the Use of the Negro Slaves in the British West India Islands, was published 1807 by British missionaries. It was not a full Bible. It was heavily edited Bible designed to teach obedience, submission, and compliance while removing anything that might inspire hope, liberation, or resistance. So out of 1,189 chapters, only about 232 remained out of the Old Testament, and out of the New Testament, out of 260 chapters, only about 110 remain. So roughly 90% of the Old Testament, 50% of the New Testament, it was cut out.
Wow. I hope everyone hears that. Now, I've never heard, thank you for those facts, because I didn't even know those facts at all about that. I know that there was a slave Bible. And then when you watch these different movies that we see, as you notice, the theme is they always use the Bible or honor your master, your human master. That's something they threw in there. But then you get 40 lashes. No, but that's what they did. That's not what you're supposed to do, but that's what they did. Mark,
go ahead.
You looking up videos real quick, Dean. Since you're looking up videos, check out Dr. Ben. See if you can find some clips from Dr. Ben. You know who that is? Ben Yusuf.
You said Dr. Ben. What was the last name?
It's Yusuf. Let me see if I can spell it for you here. Dr. Ben. He's long gone now, but I tell you what, he spoke a lot of truth. Hold on one second here. Dean, you can keep going because I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I'm just going further on to this. They said, what did they remove from the actual Bible?
I found them. Hold on a second.
Right. And they said anything that affirmed freedom, justice, deliverance from oppression, equality, human dignity, and God hearing the cry of the oppressed. So some things like Moses leading Israel out of slavery, taken out. Most of the prophets who condemned injustice and oppression, taken out. You know what I'm saying? And they left things in, like I said, obedience, submission, servitude, endurance of suffering, like Ephesians 6:5, which says servants, obey your masters. You know what I'm saying? Or Titus 2:9, which says teach slaves to be subject to their masters. Those things were left in. And then when you fast forward, certain things that, like growing up, everybody used to lead church, put that one finger up, tip on out.
Yeah.
You know what? They used to, that's how the slaves put their finger up because they had to go to the bathroom.
Wow.
So now you're asking for permission.
Yes.
Your finger up.
You're
just get up. Like present day, you just get up and go to the bathroom. You just leave, go to the bathroom, come back whenever you have to, right? But yes, like they lied to us to control us. And because they kept us from, if we can keep you from learning, that starts all there. If I can keep you ignorant, I can control you. I don't want you to learn how to read. I'm gonna kill you if you try to learn how to read, because the second you do, you're gonna understand that everything I said was a straight lie.
Correct.
Uh-oh, we got a problem.
And again, this is about resistance to our truth. Right. What you just provided to us was truth, right? That if we know the truth, and I'm talking about us as Black people, and this spins into present day as you're speaking. You see how conditioned we are? Yes, many times I've seen that people put their finger up and walk out. Being quiet or not looking at somebody in their eyes. We have been conditioned to do these things, okay? Right. And this is carried through generations, and it's unfortunate because we became fearful of these people who would harm us. And it's not all of us that and I can't deny Black resistance, because there was plenty Black resistance. It's just that, you know, we were so conditioned to, we have to save our lives and our children's lives. And when we're talking about the spanking and everything else that happens, most of the spankings, when mothers had to do that and they're on the plantation, they spank their kids to be quiet and not say anything, because if they say something, they will be sold. Right. That's why. And I'm not saying that they didn't get disciplined. A lot of the times the mother would stop the children from speaking because of those reasons. What do we do now? If we put that in today's time, don't say nothing to the police. Keep your hand open on the steering wheel. Don't make any sudden moves. Come on. Listen, you and I did that with our son. We had to tell him that. When you're driving, pay attention. Don't do this. I'm telling you, don't make any sudden moves. They'll try to harm you. Why should we have to do that? But we had to
because historically, cops were citizens on patrol, right?
Correct.
And it is what it is. And it morphed into now lessons that you teach young Black men how to keep from getting jacked up when dealing with law enforcement. That's a long title, but at the same time, those are the things that, hey, look, don't say too much.
Right.
Don't show that attitude.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little hindrance, but your goal is to go home. And not your heavenly home, your earthly home. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So and unfortunately we've had to pass that on as well. How to keep from getting jacked up. You know what I mean? And you know, just like they said, and I was still looking at the last thing I'm gonna say about the slave Bible, but there are 3 known copies that survive today. There's one in London.
Okay.
There's one at Fisk University, and then there's one Fisk University, and then the one is at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. Unless they have moved it and taken it out, because, you know, Orange Julius, you know, he just tried to remove a whole lot of stuff, but they told him to put those that stuff back up in Philly. So, you know, eventually, well, we got 3 more years. Golly, that's a long time.
Lord, we got 3 years of this mess. I know. Really. I did put in the chat, everyone, about Dr. Yusuf Ben. Now, Dr. Ben, you know, my aunt had the opportunity to go to Egypt with Dr. Ben. And Dr. Ben educated her and everyone else that was on tour about the Egyptians, who they were, what they brought forth, the things, and also the good and bad with them, because, you know, they did enslave the Nubians, you know, many of them did that. But there was a time with how they ruled and what they looked like and all of those things. And as she learned all of this history about the Egyptians through Dr. Ben, she brought a lot of that stuff back to me. So as a teenager, I learned a lot about who Dr. Ben was and how important he is, and why he talks so heavily about our history and the importance of learning it. And he didn't care about the fact that others did not like what we were saying. Unfortunately, we have to say what we have to say about it and be strong about it and matter of fact about it. So I'm going to play a little clip of Dr. Ben, and then we will discuss what Dr. Ben had to say. And then we'll go back to the question that I did pose about what happens to people when their history is denied or distorted. So let's hear Dr. Ben. Oh, well, let me see. I can't play it because Mark has to play it. So we'll wait for Mark to come back. And in the meantime, again, I want to talk about, what happens to people when their history is denied. So what happens when our history is denied is that we become ignorant of who we are and where we're going. There's confusion about who we are, what we've brought forth, knowledge of self. And I always talk about knowledge of self. You need to know you, where you come from, where you're going. Oh, Mark, I was about to play Dr. Ben, but I can't. You have to play it on your side. So I brought him up. So you can play Dr. Ben real quickly, and then we'll discuss that question.
I would like to first express my appreciation for your invitation. It took me 50 years to get to Tuskegee. 50 years ago, at age 16, I applied for entrance to Tuskegee. My application was accepted, but the immigration laws of the United States of America were such, and I don't think they have changed much, that I couldn't get here. I remembered that such had happened to a man before me by the name of Marcus Messiah Garvey. He was invited by Booker T. Washington. I don't know if you know about him. I heard you don't have a Booker T. Washington Day. Unusual. But anyhow, probably better thoughts may come about and there will be a Booker T. Washington Day at Tuskegee. But anyhow, Marcus Messiah Garvey was invited by Booker T. Washington to come to the United States. The facts are that red tapes in the immigration department, Garvey arrived 6 months subsequent to the death of the great Booker T. Washington. So taking 50 years to get here, nevertheless, I got here. I do not know if I would have taken the course of action in my life that I have now taken. However, I was lucky enough to slip through an engineering course and graduate and a few more courses, and here I am.
Dr. Yusuf bin Yakinen, a renowned African historian and scholar, delivered his famous lecture, Black Man Wake Up, as part of his lifelong effort to challenging the widespread miseducation of African people. In this powerful lecture, Dr. Ben Yakinen, also known as Dr. Ben, emphasized the need for Black people to reclaim and celebrate their rich cultural heritage, which has been systematically erased or distorted by European colonization and white supremacist ideologies. Dr. Ben argued that Black people have been miseducated through Western-centered narratives that have systematically excluded the achievements of African civilizations. From childhood, many Black people are taught a version of history that marginalizes African contributions to the world, culture, knowledge, and civilization. This has led to an internalized inferiority complex among many of the Black community, which, according to Dr. Ben, is one of the greatest obstacles to Black liberation and empowerment. He called for a complete overhaul of the education system to center African history and achievements.
Within the context of my education, if you could call it that, I would prefer to call it the course of my indoctrination, my training. which started in Ethiopia, East Africa, and continued in Brazil, Cuba, Puerto Rico, the United States Virgin Islands, England, and Spain. Been around a few places. And in all of these places that I've been, I never once received an education in the history of African people. Yet I thought that I've educated myself down through those period of time. And it is because of that self-education in those things which meant most to me as an African person that I decided at no time would I stand still in these halls of indoctrination and not rebel with the necessary documentation of the lies that are being taught in these halls. And so I may be saying things that may hurt many of you, if not most of you, because some of the lies have become your dear frame of reference. We could start with the Greeks. I hope you of fraternities and sororities don't get too bothered about it, since the Greeks weren't too much anyhow. But we can start with that, because there is where our institutions of learning has decided to start civilization. Yet the Greeks are only here from at least 1000 before the Common Era, or before the Christian era, as you would prefer to say. Let us just, for example, cite one. And that particular person would be Hippocrates. And I'm sure that you heard of Hippocrates. And when you consider that Hippocrates wasn't born until 333 BC, or before the Common Era, yet in your education you were told that Hippocrates is the father of medicine. That's a lie. There's no way that I can say about it other than it's a lie. A lie is a lie, whether it's in the university or in the church. How could Hippocrates be the father of medicine when the first time you see him, he is in Egypt learning medicine from Africans? There are numerous papyri, medical papyri on medicine. The nearest to Hippocrates is at least 1300 years before he was born. For example, we have what is known as the Hettus papyrus, the Ebers papyrus, and now the so-called Rockefeller papyrus, the Edwin C. Smith papyrus. All of these papyri.
Okay, guys, so let's resume here. I just want to give everyone a glimpse of Dr. Ben. You know who Dr. Ben is. I see that Mr. Curry here said that his uncle, I would like for everybody to see this one, that his uncle actually went to Egypt as well. And, he went to Egypt as well. And he too was with Dr. Ben as well. And you had the opportunity of hearing him at SCHU. Schomburg Center in Harlem. Yes, I grew up around there. I went to the Schomburg all the time as well. And Dean, you got a chance to understand who Schomburg was, right? You learned who he was, this African-American man who came.
Yes, I did. You know what? I
Yeah.
did. And, you know, for years, when you just look at, it's funny because you can look at names and you think one thing and correct and be corrected in, you know, what you what is and what isn't. And he was actually the father of Black historical recovery. You know what I mean?
Right.
He actually, what makes me remember, he passed in 1938. That's the same year my mother and father were born. But he stands as one of the most important architects of Black historical preservation. So his life reshaped how the world understands the African diaspora, and his legacy lives on in the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture in Harlem.
In Harlem, yes, in Harlem. So it is, if you would like to know, it's 515 Malcolm X Boulevard, New York, 10037. And when I tell you it's very easy to locate in Harlem, you will find it. And it looks like it's a new front in comparison to when I grew up, but you will be able to locate it. I wanted to at least give you all this information, and I'll put it in the chat as well. If you ever visit New York City and go to Harlem, Harlem has a lot of rich history there as well. I know most people know the Harlem Renaissance. Awesome. But there's more to Harlem than the Harlem Renaissance. So remember, you have the Apollo. The Apollo Theater has history behind it, how their artists came to be, the significance of the actual bark that they rub their hands on for good luck. Check it out, and you will learn that history as well, because it is very fascinating how they ended up, bringing that inside of the Apollo Theater. So again, there is the information for the Schomburg there. So I hope you all have the opportunity to it didn't pop. Oh, there it is. It popped up. So you have the opportunity to go out there and check it out. And again, Blacks and Wax. If you've never been there before, I think you should go there as well to get an opportunity to see us in wax. They have this particular historical, everything is historical, but there is a exhibit there where you go there, and it's a slave ship. And the slave ship consists of adults, women, and children. And this exhibit is quite striking, and it can get you emotionally because it is just the appearance of how the exhibit is set up. And again, these people did these things to us. So to carry the trauma of today, and we still have it. And then the confusion for us will be, why are you resisting our truth? This is our truth. How can you erase something that has happened to a whole group of people that never asked to come here in the first place? So, again, when we think about the distortion or the denial of our history, yes, you're confusing us. There is also a level of feeling inferior because our history is not valued like others. They talk about the Jewish Holocaust all the time. That's talked about, and heavily, Columbus Day. We all know the true history about Columbus. Columbus did not discover anything. If you know that, the man didn't discover anything. And to be honest, he was a criminal, as well as the ones that was on the ship with him. And if memory serves me correctly, I believe his first name is Luis Niños, an African who was the navigator that brought him to the Americas, because this fool didn't know where he was going. He thought he was going to India. What happened?
No. And you said who was the navigator?
Yeah.
For the thieves?
Yeah, he was on the ship with Columbus. Because remember, they sailed the first time and they didn't know where they were going. They end up going back because they ran out of supplies and food and whatnot. And then they ended up getting a Black navigator who brought them to America. But really, it was the Caribbean. That's where they ended up first. And this is where they came upon the Native Americans, because they were there. And they were in these Caribbean islands. And, the beauty of these islands is where they decided, hey, this is ours. and they started claiming land that didn't belong to them, as they did Hawaii. There's a great history with Hawaii as well, and how they took their land from them, the Europeans did. Everyone knows, hopefully, about the Berlin Conference, when they went over and all the European countries sat down and decided to break up the continent of Africa. And if you don't know it, I would suggest that you really read about that. Because again, if you look at the future right now, you have Ibrahim Traore and 2 other countries that are now putting them out and resisting them, and having them understand that what their truth is. And their truth is Africa, and their countries belong to them, not the Europeans. So with saying that, so Dean, what do you think? What happens to people when their history is denied or distorted? What do you think?
What do I think?
Yes.
It's being lied and distorted in real time. When that happens, like I said, it's manipulated. So if I can keep you from learning what is, I can tell you what I think I want you to believe it to be. So I can tell you the sky is green, but if I never taught you your colors, you would believe me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And once you learn what your colors are, then you realize that either I'm colorblind or I'm a liar. You know what I mean? So it's one of them things where they take parts and they cherry pick different things. They cherry pick things, they cherry pick religion, they cherry pick all of these different things. They don't tell us about our people and our greatness and things that we were given absolutely nothing to work with, and we made miracles happen.
Mm-hmm.
They don't teach us about those things.
Right.
We would have never known about the 6888 had the movie not come out. Some people would know, but a lot of times we like to keep stuff to our detriment. We'll only keep it contained to a certain group of people and only tell a few.
Mm-hmm.
And then once those few pass on, so goes the truth. So now someone is making up a whole new narrative about what was, instead of, we got to start tooting our home. And even if no one is originally listening, somebody's going to start paying attention. All of the things that our people have done, starting, let's go all the way back to all of the things that we enjoy, like lights. I know damn well, and you do too, and so does everybody watching. Some people might get mad, but it is what it is. We wouldn't have things that we enjoyed, like ice cream and potato chips, iron to press your clothes. All of those things would not exist. GPS that we use for our phones now wouldn't exist.
Gladys West just recently passed away.
Right. We could sit here for the next 3 hours and just go down the list of all of the things that we created that they stole.
Right.
And there's no shame. What you gonna do? Yeah, I'm on your internet and I'm telling the truth. It might be not yours. I got to figure out who actually originated the internet, because they told me it was a brother that did that too.
Yeah, I understand it's a brother also.
Now, you know what I'm saying? So now but when you don't know and they don't teach these things, then you believe that the first person that introduces it to you is the person who is the founder of or the creator of, and they don't tell you that, no, I didn't create it or I found it. They won't tell you that part. They'll just run with it. So now you look at that, hey, that's the originator of this or this, and they don't say a damn word. They just smiling over there in the corner because somebody finally paid a nobody some attention for something that they did absolutely nothing to create, generate, or fix. So, it's a daily process, and we have to pick up those batons and run with them and start passing them on, because like the older folks used to say, we ain't getting no younger. And before we go, we can't let the stories leave when we leave. They have to be here after we're gone. Every achievement that any one of us has ever done needs to be recorded. It needs to be publicized, and it needs to be certified and left around, so that our babies, boys and girls, know that we weren't just some dark-skinned people that was getting whooped on and picked cotton, and then all of a sudden they let us have a couple of dollars. It's way bigger than that.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's way bigger than that. And thank you for bringing up the 688. I want to bring up a few others that were hidden. And this is, again, resistance to our truth. You also had hidden figures. You know, these three ladies were remarkable, brilliant mathematicians. And if you didn't see that movie, again, they were called computers. Right. So which was very crazy to me to hear that that's what they were calling them, computers, and then had the nerve to insult them on top of that.
Well, like that's the first insult. They didn't call you by name. They called you an object,
a computer. But yet again, these women were brilliant. They came in, they did their job, and they did what they were supposed to do. But now look at how many years it took us to find out who these hidden figures were.
Right.
We didn't know them until that movie came out, because I didn't know anything about these three ladies, nothing. And then you have to talk about the Tuskegee Airmen. I didn't know a whole lot about them either until I saw the first movie with Lawrence Fishburne in it. Didn't know about that. And then Men of Honor. I like Men of Honor because it showed you how resilient he was. Now, they all were resilient, but Bashir, Carl Bashir, he was very resilient. They tried to really kill him because when he took his test, he was in the water for hours.
He stayed down there and froze the hell up.
Yes, and he ended up succeeding. And when you think about the history, they contribute to the history. And yet society, white society, some of white society, because I don't want to generalize, they would suppress that type of information. Our children need to know about these people. Why not? Right. Why not? They need to know.
We have to teach it. We can't wait for anybody else to teach our history, because when you do, it's going to get distorted anyway. Just like, for instance, and I'll give it back to you in a second, but you remember the Bugs Bunny cartoon when they say, well, I'm gonna send you to Timbuktu? Timbuktu was some far off land or something like that, right? And you know, Timbuktu is right in West Hampton, New Jersey.
Yes, it is.
It was created in 1826. This year will be celebrating 200 years. It was founded by 4 black men who purchased land from Quakers. Those founders established a school, a church, and a cemetery. And descendants from Timbuktu's early settlers still live in West Hampton in the surrounding community. So they're about to have something to commemorate 200 years of existence. It still exists. It's a small community, but at the same time,
one of the movies that we're going to be showing as part of the film festival is Daughters of the Dust, which is the celebration of the Gullah and Geechee culture in South Carolina. Like that. So definitely that's a culture that a lot of people have forgotten about. But Julie Dash is actually at Spelman, I think, in Atlanta as a professor. But definitely she's the one that created that movie. But that's one of the movies that we'll be showing and all along those lines. So that'll be in March. So next month that'll be taking place at the center here. But that'll be one of the movies that'll touch on that history aspect.
Awesome.
Yes, the Gullah Geechee. That's my folks. And very proud of them. I didn't know the wealth of the history until we started having our family reunions, and we didn't know that we were speaking that dialect in my grandmother's house because we were speaking her dialect, and we didn't realize it until we went into the community. So what I will say is that yes, they have a wealth of history. If you don't know anything about the Gullah Geechee people, look them up. They are definitely descendants of Africans. They have all the African traditions you can think of by making the baskets. They the traditional different types of foods such as okra. Everything they do serve, you will get rice with it, because you will become a rice connoisseur. The red rice, very popular with the Gullah Geechee people, and it depends on which ones, because each ones are different. When you think about from the ones that's on the coast, from South Carolina to Georgia to Louisiana, they're very different. So, but I would say research them and see if these people are in your family, because more than likely they are. I also want to big up our Native American communities as well. We cannot leave them out because they too are a part of our history. So I just want to make sure that they're acknowledged today as well, because at one time they all lived with African people, and they joined and lived together in these communities and had children and everything, and they lived as one happy community. So I just wanted to also big them up as well. I think Mark was trying to also play something for us too, but when he comes back on. Um, when we reclaim our history, what shifts for us as people? So when we reclaiming our history, and we do need to do that, our pride begins to build. That's what I see. Once we start shifting and reclaiming who we are and where we're going, I
No, we
see.
definitely have to reclaim who we are and what we're doing and
Yeah.
everything like that, because there's so many inventions that we forget about. I mean, the refrigerator, as Dean was saying earlier, and
Mhm.
even the GPS that people are so much concerned about, and glad to have that GPS when they're going from point A to point B and everything like that. But I had even heard that we were involved in the creation of the helicopter and everything like that. So there are a number of
Wow.
things that we are involved in that folks don't always give us credit for and everything like that. Now, if you talk to other folks, they'll say that it was a white gentleman and everything like that. And I haven't confirmed everything about the helicopter, but we were definitely involved in the at least creation of some of that, which is going on in that space. But there's so many great inventions that we have definitely been part of. I've got a good friend of mine that has a company called Asymmetry. And Renee Daughtry talks about a number of the inventions that were out there, particularly in the science fields and everything like that. The three light traffic signal by Garrett Morrison, and even that automatic elevator door by Alexander Miles. And we've got one of those elevators here in the center and everything like that. And the home security system, Marie Van Britton Brown, the portable refrigeration, Frederick Jones, and advancements in computing and other fields as well. So we definitely did a lot of things. People forget about the elevator when they get on the elevator, that they're getting on something that was invented by a brother. Even some of the things you'll get a kick out of this, because I know you and Dean are still playful at some degree and everything. But there's a popular gun that a lot of kids love to play with back in the day. The Super Soaker was invented by Lonnie G. Johnson, who was an aerospace engineer who invented that popular water gun back in 1990 and everything like that. And the personal computer, Mark Dean co-invented the personal computer in the 1980s and holds multiple patents for computer technology. The improved ironing board, Sarah Boone patented a narrower curved ironing board in 1892 designed for sleeves and garments. The electric lamp bulb, Louis Lattimore improved the light bulb with a carbon filament and assisted in developing the phone. And the voice over IP and text to donate, Marion R. Croak. So definitely that's one of those things that people forget about. And we can even go in medical and agricultural things like that, like the open heart surgery. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams performed one of the first successful documented open heart surgeries in, are you ready for this? 1893. The biopsy gastroscope, Dr. Leonidas Berry invented a specialized tool for inspecting the stomach back in 1955. And of course, we all know about George Washington Carver, but people forget that the dough kneader was Jody W. Reed, who patented an improved machine for mixing dough in, ready for this, 1884. And also, things that a lot of people use, like I know some of our listeners are in the military, the folding bed, invented by L.C. Belly. the rotary lawnmower, which sometimes people got to use if they got a lawn in their house, John A. Burr, and the modern fire extinguisher, Thomas J. Marshall. So those are just some of the things that we have laid our hands on and all along those lines. So there's a lot of things that people don't give us credit for and everything like that.
Right.
That's just incredible. Hey, even the home security system, co-invented by Marie Van Witten-Brown. I think I mentioned that earlier, but yeah, that's the home security system that you see advertised all the time. And of course, the three signal that was Garrett Morgan and everything like that. So yeah, we've done a lot, including the refrigerated trucks invented by Frederick McKinley Jones in 1940 and everything like that. And of course, like I said, that elevator door and the Electrodet microphone, co-invented by James E. West in 1964. Even for those who aren't quick to pick up the mic during karaoke, microphones are used every day to communicate over distances far and wide, and the vast majority of microphones used today, including the ones found in phones and cameras, use the microphone co-invented by a black man, Dr. James E. West, whose task was creating a more sensitive and compact microphone while working at Bell Labs in 1960. Along with his German colleague, Gerard Wessler, he invented the full electric microphone, which was considerably less expensive to produce than the typical ones that were back in that day and everything like that. And even the carbon light bulb filament, that's Louis Lattimore in 1881. So, hey, a lot of these things we don't get those credits for, and we need to get more credit. So I agree with y'all on that. And a shout out to Mark Dean, who did the color IBM PC monitor and the gigahertz chip. He did that, co-invented by Mark Dean, circa copyright 1980 and 1999. Before flat screens and high-definition LCD monitors were the norm, PC displays were limited to screens with no color and tethered to computers with limited processing power. That all changed thanks to the black inventor and engineer Mark Dean. And he began working.
How about this one?
In the early 1980s.
Straight out of left field, those video games that people love to play. They could thank Mr. Jerry Lawson for that one. Who was he? Oh, black man. How about that?
Street Sweeper, invented by Charles Brooks. Like, this is great. That, you know, I love that we're sitting here and saying all of these, presenting all of these historical people that have brought some type of invention, and I love bigging them up today because they deserve that. And anybody else, Dean, you was bringing up?
You know, those x-rays that folks get when they go to the hospital to find out what's going on with you.
Yes.
George Edwin Alcorn Jr.
Nice.
X-ray inventor, you know. Those people that need those eyes done, like they can't wear these anymore. They got the cataracts. You can thank his sister Patricia Bath for that cataract surgery. You know what I mean? So it goes on and on and on. Like I said, we'll be here all day talking about the greatness of us. You know what I mean? But it's just a month. We know why originally month of February was chosen, but now we go Black History 365.
365. And just remember, you all, look for and shop Black. I mean, there is so many different companies that are coming out now. Although, you know, it's not like they're giving me anything, but I have bought and purchased things from them. Tote and Carry, Actively Black, Baskin Lavers. Just make sure that you're supporting Black. It is time to give back to our communities. And, you know, of course, shop the right way. You know, when you support and see what these people are doing for our communities before you are spending your money, because it is important that, you know, those of us that want the support that they're giving back and doing the right thing by our communities. Also, just to, you know, piggyback off of reclaiming that we were just talking about, it's just so many things that when we're reclaiming our history and our stories, that first of all, it gives us some pride, and we need to think about that even with the next generation behind us. It heals some generational wounds. So whatever wounds you have open, it can heal that, because if you don't know something, you're ignorant to what you don't know, but you can fill that wound by educating yourself. Reading, you can even listen to books now. Black AF, Black History, check it out, by Michael Harriot. Check him out. Then you have also the 1619 Project, that's by Nicole Hannah Smith. Check her out. I'm listening to those two books right now. Well, actually, I completed the Black AF History, and I mean, it is very good. That book is good. The 1619 Project, it's good, but you have to take it in doses because of what you're hearing. What you're hearing, the experience of the African Americans that were here in the United States and what they went through. But it's good to know, again, because you need to heal those wounds. Activism, this should, have you ready to rise up and stand up.
Speaking of rising up and standing up, sorry about that, but I actually had to do a couple of tours. We had a group of students that were here, and I'm glad to say that they are in that field and everything, because one of the young ladies, I think that was Sheena, is going to be studying in the whole notion of putting neuro things in our brains. And this was a sister, but she's actually studying at Duke the whole notion of neuroscience and everything like that.
Nice.
So, as you are thinking about the different things that we have to fight in terms of ailments, I know that Dean's got some things that he deals with. I've had things I've dealt with. My brother has had things that he's dealt with as well. Some of these advancements in science might be from a sister like Miss Sheena. And then her friend Alex, short for Alexandria, was studying nursing over at Duke University. So those are very much involved in that space and everything like that. So we're not just history of the past, but we're history in the making, because these are young ladies that are, I think one of them is in their, will be graduating in 2027 and everything. And the other one might be closer to 2028 or 2029, but they're both in master's programs, one in engineering and the other in nursing and everything like that. So don't think that we are just history of the past, but we are also history of the future as well.
Yeah. So we have a question here by Doug Curry, right? Here, this is the challenge question for us. Augustus Jackson is known for what?
I'm not sure.
Giving us something to think about, Doug Curry. Okay, so that's the two gentlemen are looking this up. We're gonna give you the answer, but I'm gonna
potato chip, but I'm getting ready to look it up.
Potato chip, okay.
I'm impressed. Apparently, he is the father of ice cream. So,
oh wow! Do you hear that, you guys? Listen, those of you that hear it right now live and you're coming back, Augustus Jackson is known for creating ice cream. Isn't that something? Ice cream.
Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
So
we need that challenge.
So all that stuff we hear about Baskin Robbins and these other ice cream creators, they have to give their thanks to Mr. Jackson, because he's the one that actually created it, even though there are a number of ice cream companies that are out there, whether it's Breyers or Baskin and Robbins or a number of other ones, but they could not have done it apparently without Augustus Jackson as well.
Yes, exactly, without him. So as we moving on along, I mean, this discussion is very good, and I know we're getting closest to the end of the show, but I want to talk about a little bit,
I got one more for you, just because it crossed my mind. I hadn't even thought about this one. Since he's asking that question, there's a very basic thing that we all use every day in one form or another. Sometimes it's the version that he invented and everything, but there's a very important invention that Philip Downing invented. Do you know what that invention might be?
Philip Downing?
Yep.
Philip Downing.
Apparently, Philip Downing was the inventor of the operating street railway switch, but he was also the inventor of the standalone mailbox. So that mailbox that you see, that big blue mailbox, that was actually Philip Downing that created that.
He said, "I'm not carrying all this crap around. Y'all put it in the box, Dad."
I'm writing all of this stuff down because I'm passing this wealth of knowledge along to the little one.
And we talked about that gentleman with the ice cream. Apparently, he had a partner in crime, because Alfred L. Kroll invented the ice cream scooper. So we got the brother that invented the ice cream, but we also got the brother that invented the ice cream scooper.
What was his name now? The ice cream scooper? What was his name?
L. Crawl, Cralle,
Okay.
born in 1866, passed away in 1920, but he created the ice cream scooper.
Wow. And again, how would we have not known? We don't know any of these things because they're hidden from us.
Right.
And this is where, the fight, there's a fight for us to say, hey, we know that we have added more to history than we are allowed to see, right? So why do we think the fight over teaching Black history intensifies right now? Well, I'm going to give you a couple of bullet points. Fear of accountability. You don't want to be accountable for what you inflicted on us or suppress us from knowing. Political power and struggles, it's a political game for them. As long as we keep Black people from knowing who we are, we always going to have one up on them. The threat of empowerment, of Black identity. Yes, because again, this goes back to knowledge of self. You know yourself, then you can stand up for yourself. And then cultural pride and movement, gaining momentum. Yes, we do need to be proud of ourselves, but they don't want us to be. Look at this.
Be proud of ourselves, but plus we have to be proud of a lot of things that we use regularly and everything like that. Because I got another one for you as well. But apparently, if you are going for your snacks, because we all know about George Washington Comfort and the peanuts and everything like that. You go to one of your snacks, one of the snacks that everybody loves to get. They oftentimes will get it when they make their orders in fast food restaurants and DoorDash. And I know I've been guilty of ordering this food as well, even as you go out there. But George Speck is known as the inventor of, are you ready for this? Because I don't know that I knew this, but he is the inventor of the potato chip.
Right, the potato chip. Yes. I think John was saying that too. Like, again, these things we don't know, but we're eating these things. We're working with these things. These things make our life easier because of these inventions and these Black brilliant people that created these different things. Well, John, do you remember when we met Bobby Seale?
I most certainly do remember. I had the honor to sit beside him at the NAACP event and talk to him for a little bit. Very personable.
The Bobby Seale,
the Bobby Seale, sir.
The Bobby Seale.
I never had the pleasure of meeting Bobby Seale. I did have the pleasure of having actually in this building, right near this elevator and everything, the pleasure of meeting Dick Gregory when he was living. And I've been in spaces where Jesse was at, even though I don't remember physically meeting Jesse, even though we just lost the great Jesse Jackson and everything like that. But definitely have seen some great folks come through. Matter of fact, I just realized that James Claiborne might be coming here to this center in March because he has written a book about being one of the early Black congressmen and everything like that. So I think it's called something, the Field of Eight or something like that. But he was one of the early brothers and everything like that. So it looks like he might be coming here with his book and everything like that at the end of the month, because it's the first eight. The first eight refers to a book that he wrote last year, and it's the personal history of the pioneering Black congressman who shaped a nation. So it's actually speaking of history, at the first eight Black men who represented South Carolina in the U.S. House of Representatives during and after Reconstruction. So this is immediately after Reconstruction.
Wow.
And he's written a book, he's a representative himself, but he's written a book about his people that were his predecessors.
Wow. Listen, that is great. Let me tell you something. I have gained so much from this conversation today, and I hope others has gained as much knowledge as we have been discussing today, and know that our history, we need it. And yes, we have others that are very resistant to us learning it. But I will say some of our white counterparts that I see on social media, they're starting to see the truth as well. So I big them up for bigging us up and supporting the fact that we are, or have to acknowledge that, we have a history. And it's very important that, that we acknowledge it and, spread it talk about it, and stand up for it. So this is what I would say when it comes to us healing, and look forward to our history. It's important for us because it's restorative for storytelling. So we need it for our generation behind us. Intergenerational conversation. These conversations, we sit down, we talk to our younger kids, and what I find is that a lot of the times, and if the generation behind us, a lot of them are not interested in Black history any longer because it wasn't taught enough for them to grasp it and say, you know what, I do want to learn about it. You have some that do, and others that have no idea about their history and where they're going. We got to celebrate what we have accomplished, where we're going in life, and continue to pass down this history, because this is important, because if we don't pass it down, it'll die off. And then advocating, for ourselves. So we have a person sitting, like Jasmine Crockett and Sister Presley, all of them are sitting in Congress right now, standing up for Black Americans, and as well as our brothers as well, Hakeem Jeffries, one of many that are standing up. And, as we continue to clear this history up, it's, enough of it being distorted. So the more that we talk about it and clear this history up, the less it is distorted and twisted and fabricated, because a lot of the times, again, it is really the perspective of his story, as in white story, and that is not our story, because that's not what we see or what we experience. So I would say, work harder at learning these things, and I hope we gave you some inspiration and motivate you to start looking at our history and learn more about it. So, guys, we're coming to the end of our show, but I would like, of course, we love to depart with our departing words. So I'm definitely going to start with Dean, because, you joined us today, and we thank you for joining us today. Wonderful topic, Black history and society and the resistance to our truth. So we appreciate you adding to the discussion. But what's your take today? What jewels are you going to drop?
You know what? It depends on if you decide to pick it up, whether you're going to find it at Jewel or not. But again, our history is every day. It's something that there's always, like it's been said before, every day is a school day. So you're always going to learn something new. You're going to learn something different. You're going to learn something to challenge what you normally were taught to believe. And then you have to do a little bit more research to decipher what is and what isn't. I did want to give a shout out to the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge in New Jersey. They had a health awareness seminar this morning. So the next one comes up on March 28th. It's kidney awareness for March. So be sure to, lock in and tune in to get that information for that. Make sure that you take care of the babies as best you can, because if we don't teach, they'll never be able to elevate, and each generation should go a little bit higher than the one before. So, but in order to do that, we have to teach, and not only just our history, but the basics, the mathematics, the English, the history, and all of those things come into to making a better us. Some people won't follow. Some people don't want to learn, but that's okay, because if we can we can reach one, who will reach another one, who reaches another one, then we should be fine. And Mark knows this, that I'm about to be quiet, but it's time for me to go. And like I always say, when you walk outside your front door, it's showtime and the world is your stage. Just make sure that people are not watching the rehearsal. So that's it for me. It's a six-man Dean Geronimo, and I'm gone.
All right. And Mark, what jewels are you going to drop for us today?
about to be out as well and everything. I don't care where you are in the world. I don't care if you're in New York, New Jersey, or if you're in North Carolina, or if you're in uh, Seattle, Washington, or if you're in Bangladesh or where you are in the world, there is history all around us. And we need to make it a point to understand the history in the places that we live in and all along those lines. Even though he wasn't a African American and everything like that, I remember growing up seeing a poster about Horace Greeley because he made a stop in Warrenton, North Carolina, which is the town that I was raised at when I was a young man before getting into the adult years and all along those lines because I had been born here in Durham but raised in that town from about fifth grade through college and everything along those lines and now in my 60s. But he was the man that said, "Go west, young man." And there was a plaque because he had made a stop in that particular town. And there were some other things that were historical in that town, including it being the home of the environmental movement and environmental racism because of it being a dumping ground and all along those lines. And I think there may be a plaque honoring that in that town as well. So no matter whether it was a positive news or non-positive news, whether it was in your culture or not in your culture, we've all got a great amount of history that we should be studying and learning. So don't just think that history is something that is within away in the books. There is history even in the town that you are in, and then just make it a point to go out there and learn some of that history, some of your local history, including in your own community. It might be that your church members and your church family may have some of that history that they want to share, and all along those lines. But definitely get out there. I know that we're fortunate here in Durham to have a couple of historical places. We've got the Homestead, Duke Homestead, which is a farm history. We've got the Durham History Museum. We've also got Stagville, which is literally on slave grounds, and it is dealing with a lot with slavery and everything like that. So we've got the Stagville Museum, and of course, where I work at, the Hayti Heritage Center, and all along those lines. So there's a number of historical places that you can go visit, even if you were to come to Durham. And of course, Greensboro has got its Civil Rights Museum as well. And like I said, we're hoping that we'll be seeing some historical figures come through this area as they have done in the past, whether it was Dick Gregory, whether it was people like Reverend Barber or a number of others. And hopefully more people will be coming that are either making history or that have been part of history, and they'll be coming through these places. So wherever you live, make it a point to try to hear the speakers when they come as well. Because I know I haven't done it recently, but I used to love going and seeing who was coming on Duke's campus, who was coming on North Carolina Central University's campus, who was coming at UNC's campus, and even NC State's campus. There might be times that I just wanted to go hear the lecture. I remember hearing a lecture on Native American culture, maybe it was before the pandemic, so it's probably about 6 or 7 years ago. But that's just because I happened to stumble across that particular speech that was going on. So a lot of us live in towns that have colleges nearby or that have academic institutions. So I would just urge us not to think that it's just for the students, because a lot of times you can go as a member of your community to hear these great folks when they come to lecture as well. So I would just urge people to take opportunities to learn, because we never stop learning in life. From the time that you were born as a baby to the time you leave this earth, you are learning. And there are even some people that argue kind of what you and Dean were talking about, that even after we're gone from this earth, we're still learning, because maybe we're learning about the next phase and everything like that. But I know that while we're on this earthly plane, we are learning from the time that we put out our first breath to the time that we give our last breath.
Thank you so much for that, Mark. And thank you for joining me today. And I will see you again soon. Thanks a lot, Mark. All right. So let me give my closing remarks here as well. So again, thank you for joining us today on the Couch, where we hold space for truth, healing, and the conversation that shape who we are. As I close out today, I want to remind you, our history is not up for debate at all. We shouldn't be debating about it. Our history stories are not optional, and our truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be for others, is powerful, necessary, and deeply rooted. Therefore, that means you must make a connection to who you are, where you're going, so you understand what the future looks like for you and the generation behind you. And we are responsible for passing on our history and not losing it or have it watered down. So it's important that we stand up for our history and fight for it, just as Philadelphia did. And they made sure those exhibits was put back where they belong. If today's conversation stirred up something in you, that's good. Hopefully, we hope something stirred up where you're going to go out and it motivates you to begin to share, read, listen to books if you have to, watch movies, documentaries, whatever you want to do to educate yourself. We hope that it stirred something in you. Talk about it with other people, family members, children, and even in your community, as Mark said. Do some things. Go out in the community. There are a lot of historical events going on that's about Black history. So we urge you to go out. But remember, please subscribe to us. You can find us on Facebook, of course, on YouTube. Again, on Facebook, look us up on the couch. We are always on every 2 weeks. And I love, talking to you all and bringing you some knowledge. I didn't talk too much about the traumas of, the traumatic things that happen in Black history. But as you know, I always talk about the impact of what things do to us as Black people. One thing I will tell you is always make sure you're cognizant of things that are bothering you, even from the past. Get help and seek the help. Our communities, depending on where we grow up, could have been traumatic to us. Some of our communities could have been positive to us, which is a good thing. But anything that seems to harm you, even till this day, make sure you seek out some help, just so you can have a clear mind and live your everyday life how you see fit. So again, just make sure you follow us, and we thank you so much for joining us today. Again, I hope you learned something from us today as we shared and talk about Black history and society's resistance to our truth. We thank you again, and you all take care. Peace, love, and tranquility. Thank you for joining us on the couch. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of On the Couch. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found it as enlightening and inspiring as I did. Remember, the stories and experiences we share here are just the beginning of a much larger journey. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, look for the notification on Facebook, and find us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us keep the conversation going and reach more listeners just like you. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep the dialogue alive. Peace, love, and tranquility. Take care, and we'll see you on the couch.